Welcome to TheStreet.com TV. I grabbed TheStreet.com contributor Dan Dicker to talk about, you know what? Oil, $133 a barrel. Here it is, going to keep on going higher. Dan, thank you for being here. You were just on CNBC. How'd that go?
No, it went well. Thanks, Alex. We had an argument, well, it was a semi-argument on whether it's really fundamentals that are driving oil higher or whether it's speculation. I've, of course, been of the view that it's almost entirely speculation coming from managed futures, indexed futures, and ETFs and other instruments that just weren't available 2 years ago and now are growing by leaps and bounds, just driving the price continually higher. And
we were actually talking before we got on camera. I asked you how high is oil going to go, and you said really high, 280, 260, whatever. Why is that?
Part of the arguments that I have with fundamentalists is that they always want to come up with a number, and analysts have a difficult time coming up with a number because it's difficult to value oil. When you value a stock, for example, you have a number of metrics that you can use, PE, growth, you have all sorts of things. With commodities, the only metric you have is if you take a number of buyers, a number of sellers, you sort of mish them together in the middle, and they sort of decide together what the price is. Now that's sort of failed now because real buyers and sellers aren't really meeting on the open marketplace. What we have more is financial institutional buyers coming in, trying to find or create sellers in a futures market, and valuation on oil is hard to come by. You're really hard to describe. So for me, when I say, you know, where is oil going to go, the only thing that I use as a metric now is how much appetite there is for exposure to oil, when will that be exhausted, and that's how high oil will go.
And you were saying that, you know, people look at their stock portfolio and they say, oh, you know, Gap stock is down, but hey, my oil futures is up 30%. I want to get in more on that and make more money.
Yeah, and even I'm a personal example of that. I mean, I look at my portfolio too, and I have investments in these things, and I have, I trade oil, and that's not what drives oil up and down, but I also have investments in an indexed commodity fund, and that is driving oil up, and that investment is up 30% this year. And most of my managers who are trading equities are down 2 to 5% this year. And of course, over the course of the last couple of months,
want that 30%?
I have removed from one and put into the other, the one that was doing well. I mean, that is a natural reaction, and that's something that's going to continue. On top of that, you're going to have new players who are coming in who've never had exposure to commodities before, who see oil ramping up, and will think to themselves, I want to get in on this. So it's sort of a dastardly kind of circle where people are looking to make better returns, and this is the one place that they can look to get it.
Now, I also asked that with oil ramping up here, are people going to look for alternative energy stocks? Wind, natural gas, in order to put their money into that because they're so scared of oil, and then will that help the futures of oil?
Well, there are lots of places. There are lots of places that you can think to get alternative exposure to oil, but the truth of the matter is that the oil market itself is so tiny compared to the capital markets. For example, the total exposure of all oil, open interest, the value of it is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5.5 billion. Now that's a pittance. It sounds like a lot, but it's a pittance in comparison to the worldwide capital markets, which have a value of well over $50 trillion. So if you want exposure, for example, to something like stocks, you have a lot of places you can go to get exposure. But if you want exposure to some place like oil, there's really only one place to go.
Fair enough.
And that kind of tells you that, it's going to be sensitive, that even a little bit of money or a relative little bit of money going in looking for exposure to oil is going to make a big move in price.
And last question, anything you wish you said on CNBC?
No, not
anything you didn't get a chance. They cut you off.
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't actually get a chance to look at the tape, but I'm sure there's plenty. When I take a look, I'll know.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Dan, for breaking that down with us.
Okay, Alex.
We've been talking about oil with Dan Dicker, TheStreet.com contributor. Thanks for watching.